wrote over 170,000 words of a book that is no longer going to be the first one in my series. So that was fun. To explain all of what happened, I need to go back to November last year when I first finished Novel November, which is, if you don't know, the spiritual successor of National November Writing Month. So, the first story that I wrote is called Always On, and it follows two characters, Tessa and Chase, while they are on their honeymoon. They are recently married. They are driving through different towns in the East Coast, following the cities where Tessa's mom performed when she was a theater actress, from her very beginnings in a middle of nowhere theater to when she was like a Broadway star. Okay, and I was writing it, and I was very happy. It's a very sweet story, and I was very happy with it. But at some point, I started looking backwards, not rereading. I started looking backwards on the story, and then I realized, well, where's the romance? There's no romance here. So I naturally concluded that I needed to write another book to explain where they started and how they got to where they are in Always On. Okay, so that happened. And in Always On, like I said, it's a very sweet story. They are already in love. They have a very sweet, stable relationship, but there's no romance. So the actual story is about Tessa, and it's about grief and identity and learning to become something that you didn't have a model for. So that's what Always On is about. But then I started thinking, okay, Tessa and Chase need their romance. And I started writing Fair Game, and writing and rewriting and changing the premise and writing some more and changing the premise again and writing again and changing the premise one final time to something that I thought was, that was good. That was going to be it. And every time I kept having the same problem. Every plot that I gave them felt like it didn't belong to them, like they didn't belong in that scenario. It felt forced. It felt like I was making them do something that they didn't want to do because I wanted a romance novel to happen. So, like I said, I found a plot that I thought was good. It is good. I If it was another set of characters, this is a good plot. This is a solid story. But I was already over 120,000 words when I was like having an identity crisis. And I was like, I told my husband, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I told my sister, this doesn't work. I went to Threads. I'm going to put it somewhere here. And I had like a meltdown, a breakdown, on MTV. And the people told me, like, no, you're not, stick to it. You need to keep going, um, finish it. And you're going to see that you're going to be happy with it. So I did. I did. That's how, after those 120 or so thousand words, I rambled and beat around the same bush for over 50,000 words. And I did finish the story. It is concluded, it is finalized, it doesn't work. At some point, I had to accept that I was trying to solve a problem that wasn't really there. And I had to ask myself a very difficult question that I should have asked myself at maybe 15 or 20,000 words. But I was refusing because I am very, you understand? So I had to ask myself this question: does this relationship actually need its own romance novel? Or do I just think that every couple that I'm writing in this universe needs one, or is supposed to have one? Chat, it was the second. It was just the idea that I had. Of course it was. Because when I stopped thinking about plot and about premise and about outlines and everything, and I just thought about these characters, I realized something that I had ignored all this time, which is that they, I already knew what their story was. They met, they fell in love, they started dating, they made it, uh, uh, they made it a thing. Then they decided to get married, and they got married. That was it. They were college sweethearts, and there was nothing beyond that. So it took me over 170,000 words to accept that fact. And every time that I tried to change that fact, I was forcing these plots on characters that knew who they were long before I accepted it. So Fair Game, at least in its current form, those glorious 170,000 words, um, is no more. is no longer going to be book one. I might salvage a lot of it for a different story. I might use some of it because there's a lot of their background within, of course. So what I might do, what I'm planning to do is to reuse those parts that really speak to them as characters, not the plot that I was forcing on them, and use it and weave it inside Always On to give a background of what made them them. Which brings me to another problem. I think I have mentioned this, but I have the spectacular amount of zero professional training in writing. Okay, maybe I have mentioned before that I have a bachelor's in accounting and a master's degree in business management, and most of my work experience has been teaching middle school, recruiting, and lately the operational side of marketing. So as you can see, zero knowledge about writing fiction. And what I have discovered in this process since last November is that apparently my storytelling method is this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened chronologically all the time, which is going to be a huge problem for future Jessica when she has to revise this book and realizes that maybe some of these events needed to be told earlier or later, or um, I'm going to have to learn how to write flashbacks in a way that doesn't feel like something like someone paused the book and put an entire info dump in the middle, because that happens to some writers, and I don't want to be one of those writers. So excellent. This is going to be so much fun. Don't get me wrong. I can gut a book and tell you why it works or why it doesn't, and examine why these things happen or don't happen. But from grabbing the finalized product and critiquing it to actually building the product from scratch, you know? Anyway, if you watch, I think it was my Story Bible video, I mentioned there that I was already outlining uh, book two and three, which will now become book one and two. And those are Soft Launch, which is Queen and Reed's story, and um, Art Lounge, which is Cassie's and Sawyer's story. And those, I'm currently drafting both of them. And this is infuriating for me. Those have been so much easier to write. Those relationships really have stories to tell. There's history, there's mistakes, there's past moments. Like I have, everything is so clear in my mind with them. Nothing feels forced with those two stories. These characters really have their work cut out for them to be together and have and earn. I hate that word, earn, and earn those happily ever afters that they are going to get. But those two have been so satisfying to write so far. Such a different experience with Fair Game, which is another thing that makes me mad because I love that title so much. I don't know what I'm going to do with it now. I'm so mad at myself. Why didn't I realize this when I was 20,000 words in, right? So, yeah, that's what's waiting for me. This entire process has also taught me something about myself and the way that I do things. Something that more or less I already knew. I approach things in a very intellectual manner, let's say. Academic would be a better word, I think. And when I don't know how to do something, I go and study it. So when I decided to take this on and to start writing a book, I didn't know anything about plot or premise or outlining or story arcs or none of that. And then I started studying from books because books are magical. Books are your friends. Books have knowledge that you need for life. So I started working with all these books and I learned a lot. Maybe not enough because probably I would have saved myself from 170,000 words. God, I'm so frustrated about that. Anyways, I learned from books and applied what I learned mostly. Now I have reached the next problem. I don't know how to revise and edit everything that I have written so far. So that is the next part of this process for me. I am going to start reading books about developmental edits and about style and about revision and about everything. So far I have collected all of these books. I'm going to leave a list on the comments of all the books that I have used during this process, and then I'll try to apply that and see where it gets me. Writing a book is such a personal process, right? And I think that I don't know for a fact, but I am pretty pretty sure that if I asked any author, they would tell me that their process is going to be different to mine. So this is mine. I mess up in a 170,000 words kind of way. And then I realize where I went wrong, and then I go back and fix it or cut it off. But the good thing, because there's a silver lining to this, is that now I know these characters better. I know the series better. So I am better equipped to make better choices for the stories that I want to tell. So, yeah, that's my journey so far. And that's my next step, learning how to revise and edit. So, wish me good luck. And if you're interested in knowing more about what's happening with my writing life and what new messes I am getting into, subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and leave me a comment. Tell me what your writing story has been so far and what madness is it bringing to your life because, boy, wow. Okay. All right. See you in the next one. Bye.